Good morning, guys. I am here. It is Jeff with True Crime Myths, Legends, and more. And thank you guys for joining us. It's been a crazy week, man. I've been going through a whole bunch of stuff. We dropped another Delphi episode, episode 4, and I'm actually going to be working on dropping episode 5 coming up here soon, where we're going to talk about all of the motion to correct errors and the state's response. Golly, sorry guys, I didn't mean to spit at you, but so we're going to do the state's response to the motion to correct errors. Maybe talk about some things outside of that. Discuss the possibility of that moving into an appeal, and we'll kind of go from there. I am also planning on we dropped the episode of Phil Chalmers and the myths of serial killers. We talked about that, and then we had Bill Kimberlin on and talked to him, and then we just had our live with Mary and Sherry talking about all of that and more. And there was some question. If you guys haven't had a chance to check it out yet, you should check it out. But there is some discussion on how much Mary looks like John Wayne Gacy. I'm sure she's going to kill me when she sees that I also put it into this episode, but I think it's hilarious. She is the meme queen, though. She like spammed me with like all kinds of meme after that, uh, coming after me. So told me to watch my back. So you guys, if something happens to me, it may be from Scotland. Just saying. But so today I have a good friend of mine. We've known each other since for several years now. Bruce has been in the true crime scene for quite some time, talking to all kinds of different killers all over the country. He started out with a blog called Killer's Crawlspace, which became a podcast, and I have been on it several times. So it's about time he got to come on mine and talk a good bit. He also has several books. He's an author, and I have a couple of his books sitting right here. So we'll probably talk a little bit about that. I know that today he had a call with an inmate, which is always interesting to hear about what's going on in there with all of that. So without further ado, let's bring on Bruce LeMaster. What's up, man? All right. So I can almost barely hear you. Let me see. Yeah, let me see if we can adjust this volume. Uh, oh, well, your mic volume is all the way up as far as I can see. so, so we have this is attempt number 3 at doing this. So all you guys out there are aware of this. This is not the first time we've been trying this, but Bruce lives in West Virginia, out in the middle of nowhere, and so the signal and everything is not always the best. We had one incident where it was raining and there was no signal at all. And then the next time we tried to do it, there was 8+ hours of no electricity. And currently, there's like a whole bunch of rain and flooding there in West Virginia right now. So,
Yeah, they were calling for a storm the other day, like a winter storm, but we didn't get as much snow. But now they're calling for like 2 to 4 inches of rain.
geez, Pete. All right, we can hear you now, which is great, and I'll
Okay.
keep that.
Yeah, I was actually, it's supposed to hit Saturday and then end in snow Sunday. Yeah, like last week, I had no way of getting out of the holler for like the end of the day. And if I would have been at work, I'd have been stuck at work like all day. But like, luckily, I was out.
Man, that's nice. It's never worse than getting stuck at work all day with nothing to do. Like they try to make you work. It's like, damn it, I'm supposed to be off. I'm gonna be stuck there. Uh, okay, so Bruce, tell people about you.
So I've been into true crime for let's see, I'm 35 years old since I was a kid, basically. My mom is the reason I got into it because like, so she read books, watched documentaries. Like, I remember as a kid, I had a Freddy poster when I was 5 years old. So I was into, the fake killers and stuff, which most of them is based off somebody. I remember I used to have a Freddy doll that I would chase kids around in kindergarten. I think I ended up getting in trouble for it, hitting them with them. But like my mom's the reason I got into what I do. And I just took it a step further with writing the killers and doing books and just being more out there than she was. But she's like your typical person that just watches it and that's about it. So I've also dived into the paranormal. Like I like a lot of the darker aspects of life, I guess you could say. So I started doing paranormal investigations in 2008 with a buddy of mine. I don't get to do it as much because I have 3 children, so that takes a lot of my time besides work. But back in the day, like when I was young, I'd go about every weekend to a haunted location. And it kind of, I love research. I got into the older I got, the more research I love doing. And I love when things connect. Like if you're investigating this spot and researching it, and then this place that you used to go to, it connects. I love stuff like that. So I found a love for research, and it's kind of been more or less the true crime thing. I still have going, like for the paranormal, not as much, but I still research. I listen to people talk. I take in stories and all that. So other than that, I live a pretty simple life out in the country.
See, it's so funny because I've always been a city boy to begin with, right? I grew up right outside of Philadelphia. I live in Cincinnati now, again in the city. And man, I don't know what I would do if I think that if I lived out in the country, like I would cause bad shit to happen just to have something to do. Like it'd be bad. I'd be fucking shit up just to fuck it up because I'd need something exciting to do. I can't just sit there. It's a problem. You got to keep me in the city or I'll wreck things. Like don't put me out in the country. So with that being said, I have always really loved the paranormal stuff too. I do some paranormal research myself, and I think that it's always interesting to me that when you look at the paranormal and you actually do the research, there are a lot of historical connections, and so understanding the history of a location, understanding some of the things that may have happened there in the past, I think is incredibly fascinating and often leads to different true crime connections. It might not be like, a Bundy murder or something happened there, but often it's because there is significant emotional attachment that's happened in that place. Someone has died for some reason and decides that they don't want to move on and is continuing to cling to that location. And there are a lot of times where it ends up being that maybe it was, not necessarily nefarious, but, there is some kind of big emotional thing that has happened at that location. And they get stuck there and attached for some reason. And I think it's really cool to be able to look at that and to see all of those connections that could be or might be. And as we all know, it's not an exact science, right? You're out there, you're investigating, and you can't say that like this is for sure because none of us really know that. And if you look at any of the 100 shows that are out there on paranormal, they often get different ideas from each location that they're at because it sometimes depends on who's there and how that energy kind of manifests itself. Some people are just like lightning rods for that stuff, and those are the people that you want to take with you because then always weird shit happens.
Oh yeah.
So another thing, you got a hoodie on there, and I see it says the Flatwoods Monster Museum.
Yes.
Dude, that's fantastic. I have never been there. Uh, they were No, they weren't. That was the Squonk Museum. Was at a show that I was at, but I've been close to where Flatwoods is. Of course, I've been to Mothman Museum a bunch of times. I get down to Point Pleasant at least once or twice a year, and I've been dying to go hit the Flatwoods Museum. There's a Bigfoot museum in Georgia that I've wanted to get to, and I think it's Blue something. Is it Blue Mountain? Blue, I don't know. It's Blue something in Georgia, and I've just never been to that side of the state, but I want to go check it out. And then you have the Squonk Museum that they have. So yeah, some cool stuff.
Actually, there's a Bigfoot museum right down from the Flatwoods Museum.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they've been doing conventions for 3 years, I think, 4 maybe. Like they bring in a lot of people, and I wouldn't say it's as big as the Mothman Festival, but it's been growing every year. But yeah, it's probably not even 100 yards probably. But yeah, I never went to Flatwoods until like 2 years ago, maybe 3. Something. But like being in the paranormal, like you're like, well, I should have been there forever ago. But like Mothman, Point Pleasant, I go there all the time. Uh, I love going down there. I investigated the Low Hotel during the off season one year. That was pretty interesting. But going back with paranormal and true crime, one of the first places you probably heard of West Virginia State Penitentiary or Moundsville Penitentiary.
Mm-hmm.
I actually got caught a whore there back in 2009. So it was me, my buddy, a bunch of people of us went, and it was 3 in the morning. We were in maximum security. We were in Danny Lehman's cell. Danny was an inmate that had got stabbed in the eye during the riot of him, and he died. But we were sitting in his cell. I felt what I provoked a little bit, and you hear this man come over and say he fucking her right after. Um, so I ended up talking to an inmate at his house there. He was one of the inmates that actually got out and killed one of the off-duty police officers, Ronald P. Williams. He's still in prison. He's 81, 82, if I remember correctly. He went out to Arizona, killed somebody as well, but he had broke out of Moundsville. He said multiple times. About any place he's been to, he broke out of. But he actually confirmed to me that Danny used to call people whore all the time.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was able to connect that. He gave me a bunch of like stories and stuff and connected all that. And I'm like, huh, that makes sense. And that goes back to like I said, things I love when things connect like that. And I talked to Ronald quite a few years. I know he was trying to get out of prison, but I doubt he would. But he's one of those days. I think if he gets out here, I want to say Arizona wants him with his mother off there. I've been to Moundsville 3 times since, and a lot of the well-known places I don't have as much activity at. Which, if you think about it, people go there all the time. You get tired, I get tired. Spirits are bound to get tired as well, especially when it's the same people asking the same questions every other day. I think what else I've had talking more.
So I've been to Moundsville as well. I went there and I did a little bit of paranormal investigating while I was there. I specifically went there to go and see. Oh my God, why can't I think of his name now? They had James Earl Ray was there, who shot and killed Martin Luther King Jr. And so I went there to specifically see his cell. And so I have a bunch of paint chips from James Earl Ray's cell. Uh, and like when I was there, it's really weird, man. Of course, James Earl Ray was there a long time ago, and other people have occupied that cell since then. And Moundsville is not an active prison anymore. It is, it's just there for tours and stuff now. But whoever was in that cell last, uh, like scrawled shit up on the wall. And it says on the wall there, it says the game must be sold. And I'm like, what in the fuck? Like, and of course, I'm a game designer, and I walk up and I see this, and I'm like, dude, this is weird. This is like the third time I've walked into a cell, and there's like been messages like directly related to me. I was at oh my god, it was one of the solitary cells at Oh my God, where they did Shawshank Redemption. Why can't I think of the name of that
Uh,
prison right now?
yeah,
Uh, I can't
Ohio
think
State
of it right.
Reformatory.
Yeah, the Ohio State Reformatory. I was there and I walk into I only walked into one. They have three, or at least towards the cell block, they have 3 or 4 solitary cells. And I walked into the one and I'm like, I got my flashlight and I'm looking around, and I look up and it says, Jeffrey is dead. And I was like, what the fuck? It's time for me to get out of here. I did find out the story about that, and there was a time in the history of that prison where they were putting multiple people into solitary confinement together because they had a serious overcrowding problem. And so there were 2 people that were in that cell, and there was a very large man in there, and there was a skinny guy in there. And the very large man ended up killing him, and kind of like, hanging out in that. Well, I mean, he couldn't go anywhere, but the next day when they found him, there was blood all over the cell. He was covered in blood, and he had scrawled Jeffrey is dead on the back of that because the guy's name was Jeffrey and apparently was annoying him. And so he killed him in that cell. And so I was like, well, good. I'm glad that it wasn't necessarily specifically for me, but it definitely made me feel weird. Like, what the fuck is going on here? There was also some other cool experiences I had at Moundsville. One of them was doing their moonshine tasting there and getting the last bottle of oh, what was it? It was, oh my God, I can't think. Oh, it was honey moonshine. Oh my God, it was so good. It's probably the best like moonshine, like aftermarket kind of moonshine that I've had. And I brought the last bottle home with me, and it was delicious. But there was more paranormal stuff that happened there too. We got called some names. Somebody got poked in the throat while we were in front of one of the cells. So there was a lot of interesting stuff that happened there, specifically at Moundsville, that I've never had anywhere else. And this was during the day, during a regular day tour there. It wasn't like we were there for a paranormal investigation overnight or anything, just taking a regular day tour. And of course, they tell you that you're not allowed to record and you can't have like paranormal equipment out. And yeah, we're fucking rebels, and I'll do what I want until you tell me not to. But so
Speaking of that, years ago, Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, I went there when they done. I don't think they do it anymore, but like Battle of the Bands, it was a bunch of bands that, if they, I think they done like the top 3 maybe. But my brother, his boss at the time, had a band. This was 2000, I think this was 2009 as well. But we actually almost got kicked out of there. So they stamped us because we were staying there, like camping out. And we had went out around the back. It was starting to get dark, but we had went around the back to see the faces that they had in the building. Well, the people that own the place caught us, and they're like, "Well, you're not stamped right. You're not supposed to be here, so we're going to take you out." So we actually got escorted back to the front. And the lady that had got us in there, like, checked us in. She was like, "Oh yeah, they're fine. They paid, to be here all night." So yeah, I actually almost got kicked off that property. But trying to think, I had something in my mind, but it went away. Oh yeah, with Moundsville, I actually had a great uncle that was a CO there back, I want to say, 60s maybe. And then I actually had another relative. He was accused of 2 rape deals in Huntington. He was called the Huntington rapist, and turned out he didn't do it. But he served 5 years, I think, in Moundsville. He got a big settlement. But he's one of like the first people in West Virginia that they done DNA to back in the 90s, and turned out like the guy had the detective, oh God, he forged a lot of cases and gotten good stuff. I want to say he lived down in Florida after that.
oh wow.
When he got killed by that. So I have, some family, tied into Moundsville, but I've never talked to that relative. My great uncle that worked there, he passed away when I was a small child, so I never got off to the hospital questions about it. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was in like the mid 60s probably. But just thinking that was really good active time for that because it shut down in '95. The last inmate that left there. There's some shut down for a good while. Yeah, I've always wanted to go to Ohio State Reformatory. Have you ever been to Old Licking County Jail?
No, I have not. I've always wanted to go there. I hear that there's a lot of crazy activity there, but I've never been there. Yeah.
There's a video I went. So what I used to do each year, I would basically rent out a place, and I would invite mostly my family, and so we'd all go to this haunted location every year. So we went one year, and my cousin, there's a video they did have it on their website, but it's the third floor. It housed all the killers and all the more violent offenders. And well, what sucked though, early in the night, my DVR system, I set all the cameras up within 20 minutes. My DVR crashed. But we didn't catch like anything because my cousin had felt that she had got her hair pulled, and I'm like, "Well, you're sitting in front of the camera. I'll go check." Yeah, DVR crashed. So I lost it all. Um, but we had a camera facing in the cell block 2, which is on the third floor, and he had went up there because his buddy went up there and said that he felt odd. And they go up, you hear this door slam, and it sounds like it's right there. So he's looking over and nothing's moving. And you hear it slam again. And my cousin, he's 6'3", and he usually don't run away, but actually they all left. And you can hear the door slam again while they're taking off back down the stairs.
That's too
And
funny. I'll tell you what, people don't realize like being in a location like that, it's creepy to begin with because, it's dark, first of all. There's all this metal bars and shit around you where you know that people have been the most miserable time in their life has happened in this location at this for the time that they were in there. And you're there with all the lights out. You can't see anything and it's just like this incredibly you just think about it when you wake up in the middle of the night, even in your own house, right? You wake up in the middle of the night, you got to go pee, and you're like tiptoeing through the house, like every creak and every sound that happens, you're like ready to shit your pants, right? And so like amplify that by like a million times in any one of these locations, and it will make the biggest, toughest guy run out of the room ready to go cry.
oh yeah, there was actually a place I don't even know if they're allowed anymore, but it was a community center. It was an elementary school and it was a community center. Uh, it might have had some tie into it's set across Ohio River. It's in Ohio, it's in Chesapeake. But they said maybe the Underground Railroad might have a tie into it. They're not sure. But something there leaves marks on people, scratches and all that. And it's like it's almost like an every weekend thing they have something. Well, the first time I ever went, I actually got marks on my neck. But we were in the male's locker room. Like I'm kind of maybe a foot away from a wall, and I thought what they were doing. But I'm standing there, and like it felt like somebody took a lighter to my neck.
Oh wow.
And then I got excited, so I run upstairs, and I'm like, dude, I actually got marked. I actually had 3 marks across my neck, but it looked like somebody just like took their fingers and just dug 3 of them into my neck as hard as they could. And I went there again. A couple weeks later, fell asleep in the locker room. Fell asleep in the chair. So never had anything like that ever happen to me before or after. Very unique experience. I did have a weird thing that happened. We actually caught it on audio. You know how like when an animal is drinking out of the bowl,
Mm-hmm.
that's what we heard. And my cousin's like, "Is there a dog in here?" As soon as we turn the light on, a dog out, and we all 3 heard it. And we're like, "Wait a minute," because it was there's a boiler room, and that's where it was at. And I'm like, "What this is?" Yeah, we actually caught something growling, but there was supposed to be a black dog that's seen around in that area, like in the whole building. But yeah, when you go, so you got the basement, the got a locker room, you got the first floor, you got the second floor. So every time you go up to the second floor, you'll be like on this side, you'll hear stuff moving on this side. You're like, well, it's just a building settling. You go to that side, you start hearing stuff on the other side moving.
That's
And
wild.
one time we had split up, one on one end, one in the middle, one on the other end. Nothing happened the whole entire time we were there. And then we moved on the one side, start hearing stuff on the other side. We're like, okay. So, like I said, it almost sounds like somebody just walking around making noise, but you can't see nothing. But we actually had they had buggies at one end, and one of them got pushed out. We don't know why. I actually had a weird experience last time I was ever in there. Something pushed down in on my pack, but also right around that time, people ran out to the upstairs room, so it could be like martial arts place. I forgot what else they had. So some of the doors are locked upstairs. Well, something was in one of the rooms, but I actually thought the door was out there open. You could hear the door rattle, and there was nothing, in there, so it's locked from the outside. I think it had like a padlock on it. That's a really unique place like that. I don't think they allow anybody there anymore. There's a team that used to help kind of watch over the place. I don't think they do it anymore. There's a lot
Wow.
of places like that kind of have shut down in a sense.
Yeah, there's been a lot. A lot of that is because the people that are the caretakers of the property and stuff are all getting old, and they're getting to a point where they can't do it anymore. And there are a lot of people that are not willing to kind of take that over, to do the necessary research, to do any restoration work, to try to make it where it's safer for people to be in there, because a lot of these locations are old and run down and beat up, and so it becomes un it's just not safe for people to be there. Uh, have you ever been to the Bell Witch Cave down in Tennessee?
No, I have not. But I've
So
heard of it.
yeah, so I've been there. It was actually on the same trip that I went to Moundsville. I went down to the Bell Witch Cave too, and I have an EVP from there where we hear like like almost it's like a pig grunting, or maybe like it was really weird. I mean, we're in the middle of a cave, like there's no pigs there, and you can hear like the water running because half of the cave was flooded. That cave floods all the time, and so like we were back there, and you could hear the water running in the back, and then you just hear this like low, like guttural pig grunt. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? And we didn't hear it while we were standing there. It was just caught on the recorder. And so that was really kind of neat. And then we caught some pictures of some weird anomalies in there, and actually caught a picture of like a full body apparition while we were in there doing the tour. There was a guy that was standing there next to me in a cowboy hat, and I was there. There was nobody there with us in a cowboy hat, so it was really really strange. Um, but who knows? It was a really neat location to go down there. Of course, that's one of the more famous like hauntings, and one of the few that they believe resulted in actual death. So it's kind of gotten famous because of that, the Bell Witch Cave. And I think that they really believe that it has something to do with some disturbing of a burial ground, an Indian burial ground that was actually in that cave, that may have caused all of this stuff to happen. I've also been to the West Virginia Penitentiary. I've been there a couple times. That's a really neat location too, to go in there and to check out the uh, just all the cells and everything there, and to know that like Manson's mom was there and all kinds of different things.
Yeah. I remember reading one of the books, Manson and His Own Words, and it talks about with his office. He actually, there's a letter there, where he actually wanted to go there, and they had responded when hell froze over. They would move him there, just where he
Yeah,
had ties to the stakes. I know, I was trying to say, years ago, I went to some of the areas that he actually lived at. He was mostly in the Charleston area for a little bit, and then I think the store got, I think they tore it down, but he would go to a school, and I think he'd go to that store and get like candy and stuff when he was a kid because the guy had remembered him and stuff. So yeah, so Manson does have ties to the state.
Yeah, I've been to the house in McMicken, West Virginia, where his aunt and uncle lived, and he lived with them for a long time there. He was actually got married when he was there at the McMicken house, and it's that's a really interesting place because, well, you live in West Virginia, you know that they don't change anything until it like literally falls down the hill. So that house is exactly the same as it was when Manson was there 40 years ago now, 40, 50 years ago now, probably. I've read on there that it still has the same clawfoot bathtub uh, that Manson used in the house.
Okay.
Oh, I'd love to go in and see that, but I don't know. I never had the opportunity to meet the owners or anything, and they might be like, "Fuck you, get the hell out of here." Who knows?
Yeah, I always tell the story. I can't remember if I ever told you about it, but they're Robert Joe Long, where he's from West Virginia, and I went to a place in Kentucky to investigate, and on the way back, I passed there, and I'm like, I'm gonna look up because the book I had read had given the address and everything. So I was like, huh. They gave an address, and if the address was legit. It was. I passed it, so basically you go down the street and come up to another road. I'm like, well, I think that's the house. So I turn back around. So this is like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm just going back and forth. And I'm
Shit.
like, well, it turns out his mom still lived there. And she actually was outside getting a cat. So I'm like, I might want to leave. So she wondered if I was cars randomly driving by multiple times. But last I heard, he might be passed away now because he was in the 80s. But yeah, Bobby Joe's mom still lives in that house that it
That's
was
wild.
gave an address to. And I've always wanted, like, after that, to go there and say, hey, I talked to your son for years, but I also heard she was very, very hateful about us.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it alone. But somebody
So
had messaged me years ago, though, and said that they were taking care of her. They were telling me stories that she had like pictures and stuff of Bobby out and everything. This is like right after he had got the lethal injection.
so I went down when I was in Tampa. So for those of you guys that are out there that don't know, Bobby Joe Long was a serial killer. He was a very large guy. He's a big, tall guy, and he would like kind of solicit women through like Craigslist and other methods, and he would go and meet up with them, and eventually kill them and dump their bodies. He how many people did they convict him of?
It's kind of king. I know he suspected. I don't know if it's. They say he's supposed to kill somebody else again, but I don't think he did. I do. I'm hoping somebody had contacted me about a lady that still lives here that dated me back in the
Mm.
day. I'd like to get a hold of her and see if she'll talk to me. But yeah, I want to say max number was 20 he was convicted of it.
Yeah, so I think you're right. He's convicted of like 9 or 10, is suspected of 15 or 20, because again he lived up north. He moved down to Tampa at some point, and I went to the Starlight Lounge is one of the places that he picked up two of his victims, and I was there. It's now called something else. It's still a nightclub, and I was there at like I think 9 o'clock at night or something. I had just finished setting up at a convention, and so I drove over there and I found the place. I parked like up the street, like like I don't know, I parked in like the berm or something, and I walked back down. And like in the back of the parking lot, you want to talk about like a seedy location? They had all like the blue lights back there, so that they can see if anybody is like breaking into cars and shit. And it is just getting dark when I'm back there and I'm taking the video. And I'm looking up at the front, and there's a guy like a bouncer obviously sitting at the door, like leaned back, like looking at me, like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And so I'm there getting some dirt and everything. I'm taking a video talking about Bobby Joe Long. And like I had to walk past the guy to get back to my car. And so as I'm walking past him, I'm like, this guy is going to stop me for sure. I'm going to get in a fight in this goddamn parking lot. But it ended up being fine. But, you know, there's been a lot of situations like that because when you go to these locations that are associated with different true crimes and things like that, like some of them are residential places, some of them are still businesses, you know, some of them are, you know, all kinds of different. Like I was just at, oh my goodness, oh, Henry Lee Lucas. I was at the place where Henry Lee Lucas killed his mom. Well, that's a behavioral health center now, right? And so I'm there at like 8 o'clock in the morning and I'm out there and I'm thinking, and I walk up, I was going to go get some dirt underneath this tree. And I walk up and I'm like, I see the sign for you were on video monitoring, you know, trespassing is punishable by, you know, whatever. And I'm like, maybe I don't want to go over to that tree because it was, you know, people live there. They're staying there. And I'm like, dude, let me go to this other side and go grab some dirt. But it was neat to go there. It was really weird to see that the place where Henry Lee Lucas killed his mom is now a behavioral health center. And I'm like, dude, that's weird. Like, maybe it should have been that when he was there. Maybe he wouldn't have been done all the messed up shit that he did. I I did ask somebody if there were a bunch of sheep there, like when he was there, because I wouldn't mind interviewing one of them. If you all don't know, it's a pretty famous thing that Henry Lee Lucas used to talk about how he would go and have sex with the sheep when he was younger and going into adulthood. So yeah, that's why it's funny. All right, so who else do you talk to? You've talked to a ton of people.
Um, like the serial killer wise, like I talked to Bobby up until pretty much not as much towards the end, but after his execution, I had got an email on Joe's like, right, because when I first wrote him, completely different ballgame. Like I'll never get killed. And then the last email I ever received from him, like you could tell he was stressing because they had just got a new governor, I believe, and you know then he got to do it, like no time. But I wrote him for a good solid, probably 3 years. But it was kind of weird because he liked women that were in their 40s. So me being a guy, I was surprised I got anything back from him. But he said, you know, you are from West Virginia. That's where I'm from. So he started talking about how he hated this state, which I don't blame him. So like I wrote him for a good bit, and everybody knows that Philip and Lofty. Like anybody can get a lesson. He was very interesting. He's probably the only person that I know for sure if he would have got out, he would have killed. Like he was that creepy uncle that people would have.
Yeah.
Um,
And Jablonski, Philip Jablonski is one of those guys too. Like if you message him, he would talk about anything. Like he had no problem like talking about his crimes and the people that he killed. You know, I've seen letters and stuff that he's written, like, and most of them, you almost like you don't really talk about those subjects. They don't really want to get into it because a lot of them are, you know, they don't want to, you know, possibly open up a new case or you know have to go through a bunch of this shit again. So they kind of keep it close to the vest. But Jablonski was not one of those guys. He would not give a shit about saying exactly who he was and what he did.
I remember, you remember in the news 10 years ago, like it still happens, but not as much. Remember when people were leaving their kids in the car? Like
Leaving the what?
with their kids in the car.
Oh yeah.
It was like a big thing. Like it seemed like every other day somebody was doing it. Well, I was talking to him about that, and uh, this is how his letter went. He's like, "Oh, I would, you know, break the window and save a kid." I'm like, "Oh, okay, maybe that's nice." And he's like, "I sent it out." There you go. Yeah. But yeah, it would be literally like it's sunny here. I raped my sister when I was a child. Like that's just how his letters. But out of anybody that I've ever wrote to, his handwriting was the worst. I used to be pretty good at deciphering. Like it would literally take me because I used to do security for years, so I had a lot of downtime. I'd actually write my letters there a lot of the time, and it would take me almost the whole shift to get through one of his letters and trying to see what it said. But yeah, he was another one that demonstrators, VPK, so those ones were good with it. The only incident I had, like, I know you don't really write a whole lot of people anymore, but at the time, which was funny with him, he thought two people were writing my letters. For some reason, I can change the way I write, so he actually questioned me, like, are there two people writing me letters to me? I'm like, no, it's just me. But he actually had somebody send me stuff. I hadn't heard from him for a few months, and some random lady wrote me a letter and sent copies of stuff that he had sent to her to send to me, and I guess other people to say, hey, I'm tied up with stuff, and yeah, that's like you kind of get your address out there to other people. That's not in prison. See, I wrote him for probably about a solid year. I wrote. He's not
I,
really well
I
known. What is it?
I just heard from Dennis last week. He sent me a message saying that he had gotten a letter from me and that he was writing me back. So hopefully I'll get something from him this week because I still talk to him. I talk to him a lot through GTL because Ashley got me in contact with him. I mean, that's the only reason why he talks to me is through Ashley. And I guess it helps that I wrote a chapter on him in my book, so he feels like you know, and I've written about him since then, so he kind of gets a kick out of me writing about him and his crimes and things because I mean Dennis is pretty narcissistic. It's easy to kind of play to that when you're talking to him. But honestly, I really was interested in some of his thoughts about certain things because he's an interesting guy. Obviously, he has some far out there ideas, and the way that he talks, and I mention this a lot. He still speaks in code a lot of the time, and you have to decipher the shit that he writes because he like what he's talking about closing the cave door and like I'm like what the fuck are you saying? Like okay, you don't want to talk to a bunch of people. Okay, I get it. Like, but it's just it's strange.
Yeah, speaking of Ashford, he only wrote back once at Wayne Hensley. Because of her, he actually wrote me back. Something I wrote Dennis 2014 because he had wrote back pretty quick. In like a little over a week, I was actually surprised. But he actually made got like a Christmas card he made. We tried playing chess. I still have the thing. It's like a little chess piece that he makes. You can play chess. We made like 3 or 4 moves. So it was a long.
Oh wow.
He made me a bookmark as well that I still have. See, my first serial killer was Dana Gray. I talked to you about her. I actually just heard back from her the other day. She has a lot of medical issues going on. If you're pushing 70, I actually have nude photos of her, actually, well, topless nude photos. She has somehow got a cell phone stuck in the prison for photos. I have a needle that done the tattoos in prison. She taped to a piece of paper and got it out. She sent my kids artwork. She called herself Aunt Dana to them. Um, hadn't heard from her too much. Like I said, we used to talk a lot. Like I said, usually once every week or two, we'll check in on each other. I think she had a lot of medical issues, but she said she's doing better. I think I remember telling you when we tried to do this last time, the Jamie Rackowitz, the guy from New York that tripped and killed a field film and Thursday Federer to the homeless. That's an interesting case. But he
What
was
did
big into that. What is it?
what did he do? What did he do?
he killed his girlfriend, and from my understanding, he fed her to like the homeless people supposedly.
Oh wow.
So he actually was found legally insane. Like I said, he loves Magic Gathering, another love interest of mine. Um, and he actually sent me a card in the mail. But me and him were talking about deck ideas and like cards. He's telling me what he has. Like it'd be amazing if he would give me his collection. But he talked about the shop that he bought them from and everything. But his letters are very like 2, 3 paragraphs, and that was about it. Michael Woodmansee, I wrote him for a good book. He's the one that killed a kid, and then he went to abduct another kid, and then he got caught. Turned out he had pieces of the boy from the first victim in his room still. And then he got 40 years prison sentence, got out in 28. The boy's dad got, I'll kill him if he gets out. So he went to a mental institution, signed stuff up. And that's where he got sent. I talked to a good bit. I talked to some other ones, but like a lot of them's not well known. They're kind of one of those things like I just want to see if they're right. Like my book that I wrote and stuff. The only reason I wrote that guy is that he did not have a picture attached to his face. With it being in the early '90s, I'm like, why is there not a picture? I wrote him to get my back, I wrote him again, he wrote me back, and that we've been talking over 2 years now. But yeah, some reason I'll just write people just to write them, just for some little thing or something about their case will interest me. But I don't know, but I say well over 100 at least. But I've got at least one letter from. So I don't really, I'll buy stuff here and there off people, but I don't really like, in a sense, I'm a collector, but in a sense, I'm not, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Like if I'm gonna get something, I want it to be personal to me. Like, so if I'm gonna like have a connection with somebody and talk to them, I don't want to go and buy some letter that was written to Jimmy South. I want something that was written to me. I want some response for the things that I have. So like, I don't go around collecting letters or buying stuff from people. Now, I do like artwork. Artwork is kind of my thing. I kind of like that, so like I'll, maybe pick up some of that. But like, I mean, I have on the wall behind me, I have my one serial killer piece of artwork, and it's one from Chuck Reinhardt. Uh, there it is down there. It's a Ramirez, and I picked that up last year. So, but he's still doing artwork all the time. Reinhardt is, and he does some amazing artwork. He does a really good job. Some of his stuff like is like photo quality artwork, which is always neat to me to see that. But yeah, I don't collect a lot. And like I told Dennis when I talked to him, I said, you told me you were going to send me some of your drawings, that you were going to send some of those to me, and I'd love to see them. But like he's one of those guys that's very skeptical because a lot of people have sold his stuff that he sent them, and he doesn't like that at all. Like, and I told him, I'm like, dude, that's not what I want to do. Like, if I'm gonna do something, I'm going to do it for myself. Like I want it because you and I have talked a bunch, and like I would like to have, a piece of your personal stuff. That's it. It's for me. And I think he was like, okay, I guess that makes sense. Like, yeah, I'm not interested in going around and selling it, because it means something to me. It's personal to me. So yeah. So what's that?
But I haven't sold much. Like if I've had like duplicates of like artwork, I have sold. But yeah, Chuck, I got quite a bit of pieces of his artwork in my living room. But the only thing I've really sold that I kind of wish I would have kept. You remember Robert Pickton, his book that
Yeah,
he got
yeah.
published on? I bought that the day it got taken down. So I had went to work and I saw that it was available. And I'm like, I'm gonna buy that. Within like 3 hours later, Amazon's like, well, we took it down. I'm like, shit, I'm not gonna get it. I ended up getting it in the mail still. So I ended up selling it years, probably 8 years ago. I wish I would have kept on that. The book was terrible. Like it sucked. Did not have nothing really in it. Yeah, I kind of wish it would have kept on. I think it's went up in price a little bit.
Oh yeah.
That's all.
A bunch of the stuff has went up in price because Willie Picton just died. Like what, 6 months ago? Somebody stabbed him in the neck and killed him. Uh, yeah. So, and it was like a broom handle or something that they got him with. And for those of you that don't know, Willie Picton is Canada's worst serial killer. Willie Picton killed something like 75 women up there in Canada. They had the Piggy's Palace, Good Time Society, and they had all kinds of crazy acts there on their farm. It was a nasty, nasty, disgusting place. They were supplying a lot of the pork and a lot of the meat for all of Canada. So there is a lot of people in Canada who have eaten meat laced with human flesh from the Picton pig farm, which is fascinating. So, like you look at like Ed Gein, right? And we have the famous pictures of this girl hanging, cut open, gutted like a deer. That same thing happened when they walked into the barn at the Willie Picton's pig farm. And so, and it was a whole family operation. But like Willie was the one that was killing everybody. And yeah, just crazy, crazy story. If y'all don't know that story, you should check it out because it is a wild one. And Willie Picton has got to be one of the creepiest looking dudes. Like I can't imagine going into his nasty little room and like a lot of them, a lot of them that he killed were sex workers and things like that. But like, you want to go into this guy's nasty ass stained mattress? God, that's got to be a terrible existence, man. That's got to be rough.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
ugh. Willie was not the cleanest dude in the world. He was another one that they said like stunk real bad all the time because he didn't bathe regularly and things. Very much like Ramirez, except Ramirez went to prison, got his teeth fixed, and actually looked halfway decent. Well, Willie had about 3 pieces of hair in his head, had a receding hairline, and looked like I don't know, a creepy Elmer Fudd. I don't know. It's a creepy dude.
Yeah, the
Uh,
difference actually with Ramirez, he could actually clean up and look decent. With
yeah,
Dixon he had no chance. Even if he
yeah.
cleaned
There, no opportunity for that guy. Uh, oh, there was something. Oh, one of the books that I've been trying to get a hold of is Jeff Rignall's book about his experience with Gacy. I think it's called. Actually, I can tell you exactly what it's called right now
up.
because I
29
still have
below.
it. Yeah, 29 below. And I've been trying to get my hands on that, and that is a tough one to get. I almost got there was a guy that was selling a bunch of his true crime books, and on his shelf was 29 below. And I said to him, I said, well, I'm interested in this one and this one and this one. And he said, oh, okay. And then he was like, I don't know if I want to get rid of 29 below yet. And I'm like, well, you put it in the picture. Like, let me know like what you want for it. I'm interested. And he had another book. He had Danny Rawlings' book that was signed by Danny. And so I was going to pick up that and 29 below. And then he kind of like disappeared on me. I don't know if he already sold it or what, but I was hoping to get both of those because Danny Rawlings' book is pretty interesting too, and he talks about like his crimes in there. But the 29 below, Jeff Rignall was one of the guys that was abducted by Gacy, and he is the reason why he was on the torture board and all of that, and he eventually got away. But he's the one that talked about while he was there that there were other people in the room. So this is where we understand that if this story is true, that Gacy had other people that were doing things with him. And I've really wanted to read it and understand it better because I believe that, that Michael Rossi and David Cram were both involved. Well, this would really show you how involved they may have been. So I'm really curious to read that.
Yeah, I've never read it either, but like you said, I've heard what the story entails of his experience, and really would love to get it like it. I did see one forever ago for sale, but yeah, it was probably gonna know. That's one of those things that you do it, you gotta get the handle. And I actually worked with a guy. He actually lived in Chicago back in the '70s, and a lot of that was going on. But he never had any run-in with Casey. But he said like back then, like there would be people that would like stop by and be like, "Hey, you guys want a job?" You know, for teenage boys. And he said back then, like his mom, you know, made sure like if one of them went and done something, one of the brothers was with them, so they always two or three of them together. And he said, you know, it was scary because you just never could trust who was doing what.
Dude, I'll tell you what. I was in Dayton last week, and I went up there for a little art show. And as I was going up there, I stopped at a gas station right before I got to the place where I was going, and it was really because I had to pee. So I stopped at the gas station to go use the bathroom. And as I was coming out, I like parked right next to my car was like this black like SUV, and there was this older guy standing there talking to the guy that was in the car. And the guy was like, I guess he was like getting some money or giving him some money to go in and pick him up something from the store. But like as I walked out and I saw this interaction happening, all I could think of was Gacy. And I was like, this must have been exactly what it was like for him, as he was pulling up in these parking lots, like saying, "Hey, you guys want a job?" And like doing a job interview in the parking lot, having these guys do his bidding for him. And I was thinking, it just gave me a weird feeling. And I was like, oh man, like I could see exactly how that would play out in real life, like right here in front of me right now. And I'm sure that those people weren't doing anything bad, but that's what it reminded me of. And I was like, I
Oh,
think it's time for me to get the hell out of here. you know, Let me get back down the road. Some creepy shit is happening in this gas station.
one day if you like, you know, as teenagers, you don't really, you kind of got, you're invincible, and your mind don't process. Well, it's easier now to process because you know it's more televised. You know what people can do, but some people still don't think it's going to happen though. So they're like, "Oh, that'll never happen to me," but it does. But like I said, as a boy, when somebody's like, "Hey, you want to make some money?" You're like, "Yeah, I want some money," because you know you can buy whatever you want back then. So it's very understandable why they would go. And like the Gacy did have that charming aspect to him, and wasn't a sense of businessman, so he knew how to talk people into getting what he wanted.
I think it's interesting. I think maybe the motivations have changed now because we have a whole generation of people that don't actually want to work and don't actually want to get out there and do things. So I think like maybe you can't do that nearly as much as you could in like the 70s where everybody was looking for a little side hustle, a little job here so they could make some money and do what they wanted. Now people are like, well, somebody's going to give it to me. And they really don't want to go out there. It seems like such a culture shift in our society today. And it's astounding to me how many people you talk to, and you're like, what's your job? I'm a social media influencer. So, like, what's your real fucking job, right? Like, oh, I do websites and stuff. I'm like, so you do nothing because I could go and buy 4 programs that'll build a website for me in 15 minutes. Like, what the fuck do I need you for? So like it's so funny. Like I hear all this stuff and I'm like, yeah, you don't do anything. Like how do you survive? I don't know.
Like it's I know you're a little bit older than me, but like I noticed in my generation, we
What are
were
you trying to
smart
say?
on nothing. But like you know, like I was born '89, so like it was the concept of I was starting to get into technology at a younger age, so the schools were starting to do it, and now kids now like they're their mother's giving birth to them and they're handing them an iPad. Like here you go, like they're learning earlier and earlier. And like I said, that's kind of the world we live in. It's technology, so we're
Yeah.
like trying to make a living being an influencer.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like, I learned a lot about technology. I mean, let's face it, we're here right now on StreamYard recording this, and it'll go out live it'll go out next Tuesday on a platform where everybody can go on there, everybody in the world can see it. And like there's never been access like that ever before. It used to be everything was like closed circuit TV or radio, it was regional. Like, how do you get to a national level? Now you have a worldwide audience at your fingertips, and the kids that are growing up now know how to use it far better than us, because you're right, they grew up with it like from birth. They're using these devices, they're creating new stuff, they got a whole new fucking language that's just theirs that I don't understand at all. Like, yeet this, yeet that. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. But it is like completely different. But that is, I often sit there and, I wondered why like our parents complained about us and complained about everybody else. And this world's going too far. But it happens every generation, right? It is the generational gap. Things change. People adopt new things. The society moves on, and you have a choice to either move along with it and to learn and to grow from it, or get left behind. What inevitably ends up happening as you get older, you get tired of trying to move along with the times and you get stuck behind. I watch it. It's happening to my dad right now. He's now at a place where he's like, this just isn't my world anymore. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're still alive. It's still your world. You live here. But he just does not want to have part in anything new, any new technology. And I'm like, well, I'm 44 now, and I'm going to try to tag along as much as I possibly can until I can't hold on anymore. And then I'll have somebody else do it for me. Maybe AI will do it for me or something. We'll see.
I would say my kids would help me, but I think when I'm at that age that they have to take care of me, I'm just
Yeah, they're gonna put you in a home somewhere and be like, Dad, we'll come and see you once a month, maybe. We might send you an email.
yeah, like
That's funny.
it does amaze me just how much technology. Like you said, I try to keep up with it. It's funny at work, like we have some older people that I work with and stuff, and if anything technology messes up, I'm one of the people they come to. And it could be like something simple that they didn't connect to the Wi-Fi. It's like the most amazing thing because I fixed it.
Well,
like,
well, I
like
mean, you do live in West Virginia, so you're at least 50 years behind all the rest of us anyway,
that is true.
right? Like,
And then the sad part is I was born in Kentucky, but where I was born at in Kentucky is a very small town. I think I was born in a clinic.
oh
So,
wow.
so I've just always been, more of a like a country person. Anything like my towns don't have a red light, and I know like for the holidays, like 4th of July, everybody would come to town for it, but for some reason, everybody you didn't know who they were. It's like people that only came out once a year, and some of them look pretty sketchy. Like,
That's
yeah, so
funny.
you live at the holler for the rest most of your life.
So, so what is I mean, you've talked about some pretty weird shit already. Uh, but what is the weirdest thing in writing all of these people that you've ever come across?
The weirdest thing, I don't know. There's a few things. Uh, Speaking like of Robert J. Long, he wanted me to basically uh, do like scenarios with him, like sexual scenarios. That was very awkward. It was like, cause I was married at the time, so he's like, well, what if I just showed up and all this, and like wanted me to be like, what would I do, and like, what would you do? I'm like, what? But he would tell me that what was it? Some boy had actually wrote him and was like basically giving him the fantasy of like them sleeping with the guy's mom. Like, what? Like, yeah, that was weird.
So
And
now,
then
now, oh, hold on a second here. We're going to unpack that a little bit. Now, the question is, did you at least indulge him a little bit?
not really, because I was like it kind of really caught me off guard because I wasn't expecting that. And then in my book and stuff that I put together with I'm just gonna say he's a serial killer. He killed 2 people. Um, he mentioned that if I trusted him, that he would basically tie me up when he gets out and let me experience what it feels like to be a victim, and then me in the same response do the same to him. So I know what it feels like to have the power, come through me. And I'm still on the fence, not of that, but of meeting him because he does want to meet when he gets out. He gets out 8 years from now, and he's not that far away from me, like 5 hours. So even if we met in the middle, 2.5 hour drive ain't bad at all. But definitely would be a public place. Like the only thing I have going for me is he'll be in the 70s and I'll be in my 40s. So I'm hoping I can take him. So I know he has some issues with his arm. Because everybody keeps asking me are you sure you want to meet him? And this might be an opportunity that I'll never get again. So that's one thing I'm kind of in the back of my mind. And he said there's things that he will talk about that he won't write in letters or talk to on the phone or anything. Because the way he talks, there might be at least 1 or 2 more victims. But he won't say anything because he's afraid, like you said earlier, they don't want more cases opened up on him.
Yeah. Well, because if they can find that, then he goes away forever. He's never getting out. Yeah. So it's interesting with that. Like, I'd be interested to understand like his thoughts because he's asking for that, right? And wanting to have this experience with you and to reciprocate this experience. You almost wonder what his thought process is. Like, does he believe that anybody, if they felt that kind of power, would like want to do that, would want to become that? And even though I firmly believe that every single person, given the right situation, could kill, I don't believe that every person could be a serial killer. I think that there is a special type of psychology that pushes you to do that. I think most people that even if they killed would be repulsed by what they had done and not be able to psychologically handle the damage that that would cause in your life. I think it takes a special person that can disassociate from some of that, that would continue to do that and then feel that need and that desire to continue to do that over and over again. I think it is. I think the psychology is different, but it's interesting that he would want you to do both, play both sides of the role. Now, my question would be, which one of us gets to go first? Because in that situation, I think I want to go first.
Yeah, because you're literally talking to a killer. If he goes first, I might not have the chance to do it.
Correct. I want to make sure that at least I get my dibs in before I'm gone. But at the same time, you wonder with somebody like that, if you went first, would it be such a like thrill for them that they then wouldn't be able to stop themselves from finishing?
So that goes into another part that we had talked about. So he mentions if he stalked somebody and it didn't happen, say that he stalked so and so and something happened and intervened if he can do it, well he would go punish himself. And he mentions about going to bars and picking up old nasty men, and he would basically have them, in a sense, abuse him. It would be like using a belt and whipping him or something like that, or sexually abusing him. And then sometimes he would do that to them to take out his frustration while he messed up on something. And I think the way I understood, there was a young guy who had died. But most of them he would just get the nastiest people he could find in a bar that everybody would avoid. And that's who he would interact with and get him to do all that. And it's like he said, the same kind of punishment. So if somebody, like you said, so say me and him do that and say I'm doing that to him, and that kind of puts him back in that mindset, then he's right back to it. Because he was in the military for so long, he talks about, the switches being flipped. So he might not be able to flip it off again. Because he says that um, that he can control it, but he also has mentioned when he starts talking to some of this stuff to me, he's like, I gotta stop. It gets me in that mindset again. And he's like, I gotta
Mm,
put the pen and paper away. So that kind of goes into, does the urge ever really go away?
yeah.
So, like, he's explained to me there was a that he was drinking in prison and that he actually took advantage of a guy in there. I guess that kind of, in his his eyes to say, hey, maybe this is an issue, but it was the power to control. Because, like, his crimes are very sadistic, being sexual in nature, and I think he also got off on the control of it as well. Because he was, which he actually just opened up to me about this first. He was convicted of rape before the murder, and he was saying that the way he talks to women settlement, whether he did or not, I don't know. But supposedly everybody in prison, like when he went to jail and everything, they're like, oh, I know who she is. She does that to everybody. But supposedly she had maybe a husband or something that left her, and maybe she doesn't like the, you never know what to believe, but that's his
Yeah.
story that
Yeah.
he was set up. And his first victim that we know of, it actually ties into his like family, his mother-in-law, and he sexually tortured her basically. Because that's why I kind of wonder if he had a murder beforehand. Because he always talks about, they prolonged the high, and he sexually tortured her for a while. Like anything that he could find to use on her, he used on her. I think one was like a full brush, and his second murder, he involved. He didn't kill the child, but he went to the house. He ended up murdering her mom. The little girl wasn't supposed to be home. She was. And she kind of walked in after all that. So there ain't a whole lot about his case, but in the book that I found, it's only like 5 pages. He says he don't remember any of it. I have
Mm,
letters of him discussing what he done, and he goes into detail what he done to the little girl and stuff. And he left her to die, basically. She didn't die. And he tries to wrap his mind because he's like, I'm not a pedophile, but I guess in a sense, his mind was already in that, and her mom died too quick for him. So then he took out that frustration, I guess, on the kid.
mm.
He ended up turning himself in after that, but he kind of plays back and forth. He says like anybody in the mental health there don't really, when he starts talking about things like that, they kind of just like, well, we don't want to talk about that because I guess it probably makes them feel uncomfortable with the whole situation. So I guess since he's battling his mind of why he done that, but I just think he was just too far gone in that sense, and he had to get something for that urge to defeat it, basically, and to get that high.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting that he would talk about like if something didn't go his way that he had to punish himself, and in this circumstance it wasn't that things didn't go his way, but that they went his way, but it was too quick for him. So uh he needed that experience, and he was going to get it no matter what. And then he chose to continue that experience with the kid. And so, yeah, that's wild that he would. But it's not surprising, right? We again going back to Dennis and BTK. He did very similar things, right? He would go in, break into houses, and he would be there and realize, well, not really break in, but he would gain access to the house, whether it was by talking to somebody or whatever, or picking the lock, going in the back door. But he would go in there, and often it would end up being that there was somebody else there, or there was another person that he didn't expect that was there. And then he at that point couldn't stop himself. He had to go through with it because it's too late now. And so he would, and that's why he has so many victims versus just the I think 4 or 5 women that he actually went after. So yeah, it's interesting. I actually wrote a bunch about that book that I'm did an anthology chapter, or I did a chapter in an anthology. A lot of that is what I talk about in that chapter, is this idea and all of these psychosexual issues that culminate in serial killers. And this idea that they have control over this situation, and that they really get off on the control, that it's the power and the control that they get off on, not always necessarily the murder itself. It ends up just being the finishing touch of the power and the control. It's the ultimate way to have control, because the ultimate control is the control over life and death. And so, it's really fascinating when you look into the psychology of a lot of those people, that it is so extreme. Most of us live in the gray areas of life, and we get our satisfaction from, a small win here. We play a video game, we win the game, or, we play basketball and we win, and that's enough. These people need that on a whole different scale. And because it often ends up being that the only thing that satisfies them is this violent sexual desire, that they need that, and then they need to control the rest of it too. And that is a scary, scary person to be around.
That's what I kind of found fascinating with him, like going through his childhood. Because the way he describes it was like a guy had picked him up basically, and like gave him, weed, alcohol, and then sexually abused him. And then it's like one summer they brought another kid there, and then there was more men. So he's going into that whole story, but I'm asking him, I'm like, do you think this is what made you who you are? And he's like, no. I'm like, you would think some of the sexual abuse that he suffered as a kid through these people, would come to this, and he doesn't think that. He had a bad mom, she was very, I guess, mentally abusive to him. His dad was kind of, to himself, but that was kind of back then. That was kind of how fathers were. And so it's not really the loving kind of, parent. And but like he got away, went to the military, served for 10 years. The race is what got him out of the military. If it wasn't for that, he probably would have had a good career in that. Like he kind of blew all that away. But he said when he was over in Germany, like everything was a perfect. He said when he came back here, it was when things started to spiral for him. He just couldn't basically handle it. So I'm kind of like to get more with him and trying to understand his thought process, everything. And like if I do end up meeting him outside of prison when he gets out, then maybe I can get more stuff. But he's actually talked about going and seeing if politics and stuff will let him talk and actually give his side of the story of how he sees things. So I think it'd be interesting if he does do that. But
Yeah.
he might not even make it though. Like if he'll be in his 70s by the time he gets out. It just depends on how his health is by then.
So which book is he in?
He is in the Wolf and the Killer Volume 1.
Oh, okay.
So
That'll
that's
be
it.
this one.
Yeah, so all of that is letters that I had from him. So it's basically I'm letting him tell his own story, his own words. Like I'd ask him a question, and then he'd go off on it and write, his experience. I'm trying to work on a volume 1.5, which will still feature him, because like he told me some other things after that I published it. And then we talked about pretty much everything. And then I have another one I'm working on with a whole entire different killer. He was convicted of one. I hadn't heard back from him in a while, but he gave me enough, and he's like, "You can use it." He's like, "I don't want my name mentioned in it." And he's like, "You can go ahead and use information." Kind of like with this guy, he said that I could use his name, but then he started questioning. He's like, "Well, I'm still in prison. I do have a child case on me." He's like, "If they find out in prison, that could that's been interesting. Like I said, there's no picture attached to his face. About halfway through this project, I actually found an article that has his picture. So
Oh wow.
I know what he looks like. And so I've talked to him on the phone many times. Like he's very, very high up. Like he's buying true crime books and having them sent to people that he might stay with when he gets out. So he has all these true crime books. But he said he used to like research a lot in a sense on them, which I think a lot of them actually do. So I know Dennis Rader, he was real big on reading up on what all of them do and how he can improve on things and such.
So I wonder, that's something that I've never understood because like they have access to a bunch of things, and like if I send like a piece of artwork or something to the prison, like often it won't get in, but they can go and they can buy like different books, that like go through and describe all these crimes and stuff. It's just very, very strange to me that they have that kind of access. And I wonder if I have to ask Dennis if he has a copy of my book, if he got it yet. Because he was asking me where it was available. So I don't know. He might be able to get a copy of it.
I knew the people I talked to in Connecticut, I had sent them, I need to see if I got refunded, but there was actually a 16 in that, he said, in the graphic novel. And he's like, you should get your money back for it. But he wasn't able to get it. But my one book I worked on before this was Mentally Caged. It dealt with their side of the story of people in prison I've corresponded with over the years. Some of them, gave me their name, some of them didn't. But everybody that's in there from Connecticut, I tried to buy them a copy, and it got rejected. And the one guy was like, "I'm pretty sure this book is banned in Connecticut prison," because it threw them all under the bus. And I talk to him pretty much every weekend. He calls. I got a lot of artwork from him. He's actually the reason that my project is called The Wolf. So when I used to have long hair and a big beard, he used to call me the Wolf Man. So that's how, and he actually done the artwork, the sketch of the dog and the guy with the knife. That's actually his artwork, and I just added a
Oh wow.
background to it. And he helped me on that. Me and him like to correspond with each other every day. He's going back to the weird things that I've corresponded with. He, I think, has a crush on me. So he's always wanting me to like send stuff to him. And he's a real nice guy in that sense. Like he's only convicted of one murder, but he's very intelligent. Uh,
I believe he
I
would treat you very nice.
I did interview him for my podcast years ago, but his family got mad, and I have the
Really?
video set as private. But I think the reason his family got mad, he said that they were trying to write a book about the whole situation. But he goes into very detailed, like the first episode was early life. The second episode was the murder. Like he goes into detail of what he done, the whole process behind it. And then the third one was like prison because he was sentenced to death row twice, and now he's on life. So he might actually get out because he was like a teenager in this time. So,
Wow.
and very very interesting guy. Like a lot of that stuff in that interview, that was like one of the first interviews I've really ever given to somebody, and listen to somebody, saying, "Oh, this is what I've done," like talking through the whole murder scene, and just kind of like in shock and like, wow, that was. But he knows in a sense where it went wrong, because he was
Yeah.
talking about like, because he was actually in the military for a little bit, and he tried to get out, and he did, and he was saying, like society like couldn't sustain him anymore, and like he was down spiral. So it, like we talked about earlier, it can happen with anybody under the right circumstance. It can happen to anybody. Like nobody knows. Nobody's allowed. It's not going to happen to you. You take one instance, that's it.
Yeah.
Everything gets away from you in a heartbeat.
Yeah, that's one of the things that like me and Bill Kimberlin talked about is that a lot of these guys that are there, sometimes they did not go in there with the intention to murder anybody. That they went in there, maybe they broke into somebody's house and they were going to rob them, and they happened to be there. They thought that they were out. They go into the house, they end up coming out, and what do they do then? Then they think, well, Christ, they saw me, so I got to kill them. So they kill them, and then they leave, and then they end up getting caught eventually. But it's like some of this stuff, even though that's a horrible thing to do to try go and rob somebody, but your intent wasn't necessarily murder, and now you've murdered two or three people, and the same rules apply, right? You go to jail, and so you might get the death penalty. You may end up in jail for life because of that. And I mean, it's just as far as the sentences. You did the crime, you got to do the time, but at the same time, it's like these are not the same kind of people as like a Bundy or a Gacy or Ramirez or Bobby Joe Long. Those are people that really had some sadistic issues, that they were fantasies that they were living out, and that is a whole different category of person, and a whole different psychology. I was flipping through Mentally Caged, and I just happened to open up that you got Wild Bill in there.
Yes, yes, Rob Bill. A lot of people, his story was, a lot of people really liked the story that he told in that. It was not about him per se, but it was about a situation he had saw. And I actually had him on the podcast before that and after to kind of go into more detail with it. But yeah, most of those people in the book, a couple of them I had corresponded with like for a little bit. Andrew Dodge had set me up with one of them towards the end. And like the other ones, most of them I have corresponded with. So me and Joseph did actually talk about that the other day. Well, his name's Todd Ritter, but he goes by Joseph now. Me and him started talking right before COVID, like 2020 for 5 years. It's just amazing. Because a lot of them I talk to, like I said, I'll write a new one every now and then. That's not very often, but most of them at least 2, 3 years. So like the Dana Gray will be 12 years. I think this year. So that's a lot, to keep up with somebody for that long.
So I remember the interviews because I've listened to some of the podcasts and the interviews with Wild Bill, and that is a crazy, crazy story. Like, often you listen to stuff that he says, and like I listen to it, I'm like, some of this shit is like John Wick stuff that he's talking about, and I'm like, this is not possibly true. He says a lot of things that are very, very fantastical, and like he's like now down in Panama and all this stuff, and like it's almost like he talks like he's a political refugee down there, and not that he committed all these crimes. So it's like it's really interesting to hear this guy talk, because he certainly talks the talk, and he's written a book and a bunch of other things, and I think it's fascinating. I didn't realize what he looked like, because his voice sounds like an old like cowboy, the way that he talks. But like when you see him, he's like this giant, like this really tall, like big meaty guy with like he looks like a linebacker with like long hair. It's so weird. I did not expect for him to look like that, uh, because he's actually going to end up making an appearance in Killers the Card Game. Just saying. So
I follow his Facebook group stuff. So I don't think I thought him. I don't think how I even got introduced to him. Even if he just found, because sometimes people just find me, but I think my name put my name out there. That's one thing with Bill. I just listened to your episode with Bill the other day. Like I've had Bill on my podcast. I love Bill's work. I know he dealt with a lot of the Ohio stuff that he's done in Florida still now. I mean, I've only visited one person in prison, and that was in West Virginia, Ohio. That was a whole entire split week. weird experience, but I've never done it. And it was funny when I first went there. I was talking to this older couple. They were there to see their son, and they're like, "Oh, who you seeing?" I'm like, "Well, friends, on death row." They literally quit talking to me. Like they were
Yeah.
giving me advice of how to, the whole process until I said I was looking for my death row. Yes, that is what I'm doing. Which he is more cleaned up now. He's got short hair and I think he works out quite a bit too. But he's a very good speaker. But yeah, with my interviews on my podcast, because I let them talk, and people get you get heat when you do that in a sense. Because anybody I talk to, and Bill mentioned this on your episode with him, I treat them like they're human. Like we're
Yeah.
talking. That's how I talk to them. I let them know how I'm doing. I interact with them on a daily basis. Like, hey, this is how I'm feeling. And like one guy even told me that he kind of funny, that I was like a therapist for him. That I'd let him open up to me, and he would tell me all basically what was going on in his head. And he's like, I got a lot of these issues, and I would listen to him. I'd let him vent, and I would listen. And I just let him talk. And because I think, in a sense, my dad always told me if you watch people, you'll learn more about it.
Yeah.
And I see that when you let somebody talk, you learn more about how they are. So that's kind of always what I've done, sit back. And I don't want to say I support people that murder, but I come from a place that I can understand, and I want to understand. There's a
Well,
lot of these. What is it?
no, that's one of the things that I've always like really appreciated about Killer's Crawl Space, as well as Andrew Dodge's stuff too, is that you guys have always taken it from the standpoint where you give them the ability to speak and allow them to tell their story, and I think that that's important, right? Even though they may be convoluted and be not able to see things the way that normal people would see them, they still have a voice, right? And that voice deserves to be heard. And then people can decide for themselves, like, okay, this person is really fucked up, and maybe they need some help or they need this or that, but it's not okay to just listen to one side of the story. And so I've always appreciated that. I've always been the kind of person that I want to hear every side so that then I can make a decision of what I believe about it. Now, obviously somebody that's a pedophile or has killed other people, it doesn't change the fact that they did what they did. And so, but that doesn't mean that we can't learn from them. It doesn't mean that we can't hear their perspective and their understanding so that we can gain knowledge and understand, okay, if we see these behaviors and the psychology in other people, maybe we need to watch out. Maybe we need to understand some of these warning signs that could be out there rather than just like you mentioned it earlier, a lot of people are just oblivious, right? They don't pay attention. It's never going to happen to me. Well, yeah, if you're unaware of it, all kinds of bad shit could happen to you. Like, be more aware, understand these things, hear it coming right from their mouth so that you can understand what that really looks like. And it gives you a good way to sift through the bullshit because we all know a lot of those people say a lot of things that are just bullshit, that are just fluff, or they make up things to make themselves look better, to sound tougher, or to sound more crazy. And you get an opportunity to really sift through that and hear what that sounds like in real time. Like, okay, that is definitely somebody lying to me or trying to make themselves look better, because it's not always easy to tell in person with another person that's telling you a story, right? We've all been fooled by that in the past. Every single one of us has been fooled by somebody that has a little bit of charisma and that can talk the game. And you think, is that really true? But then you believe it anyway. And then they fuck you later on. And then you're like, damn it, I should have known. Right? This gives you an opportunity to really look at that early on and not fall victim to a lot of those things.
Yes, I agree. And I like that I've listened to your podcast. I'm pretty much caught up except maybe one episode. Uh, but I agree with what you say. I like listening from all the sides of it because, like the new series I just started, Buffalo, it's a case that's close to me. I talked to one of the guys that involved with it. A lot of people don't believe him because the body's still never been found because he said the body's at. But I'm also one of those people, like, if you tell me something, I'm not going to close the door. Even though you might be lying to me, I'm still not going to close that door because there might be a piece somewhere of what you said that I can use over here in this piece that puts it together. So I try to keep everything open, no doors closed. Whether I believe you or not, that's for me to say, for me not to say. But I'm still going to take what you say and write it down and keep note of it and keep it in the back of my head for in case something else lines up with it. But that's one thing I've always liked to love doing, and the older I get, the more I love doing. Just like I said, everything's connecting. I just love things that connect. Just when it comes to research, and I'm hoping that I can get that series going and get people talking. Because I've talked about it before, it's so hard, especially in the true crime field. You don't want to get it out there because the family that are affected, or just anybody that is affected in a negative light. But then again, you're in that sense like it needs to be told to get people to talk about it. Because this girl, Samantha Burns, has been missing since 2022. I mean, 2002. I mean, she's been missing for almost 23 years, and nobody knows where she's at. She has no closure, and I would rather have closure for the family and everybody else that is affected negatively. So, in a sense, I'm the bad guy for putting it back out there, but it's one of those things. Like, it's hard to you're doing no right in a sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There are lots of opinions from all kinds of people about some of the work that is done, and ultimately it is all about the truth coming out and what can be learned from that truth. And so, I think, I do a lot of things that there are some people that find questionable. But you know what? I sleep just fine about it. And I think that I'll tell you, here's a perfect example of that. I was at a show, uh, this is probably 6 months ago, and I was there, and I have the shadow boxes at the show with the dirt from the different locations. And I was standing there, and a girl comes up, and she's looking at it. She's with a couple other people, and she's looking at the different shadow boxes. And I was talking to somebody else about the game at the time, and I hear this girl start crying, right? And she starts retching, like she's like sounds like she's going to throw up. And I'm standing there and I'm like in mid conversation with this one person, and I'm thinking, oh shit, what's happening over here? Right. And so I finish up my conversation and I turn to her, and she says to me, she was like, I can't believe you have this here. And the first thought in my mind is like, oh shit, here we go. I'm going to have a problem today. There's going to be an issue. Somebody's pissed at me. And she was like, uh, it was from the Indian boarding schools up in Upper Michigan, right? And so there was when the white man came in, they ended up taking a bunch of the Indian kids to this boarding school, and they ended up treating them really badly, starving a bunch of them. Some of them died while they were there, and this happened all across the United States. But it happens to be that they still have some of the schoolhouse up there in Michigan. So somebody had told me about it. I went up and I checked it out, and it went from a schoolhouse. It became a mental institution at one time. They were doing all kinds of crazy experiments, often on Indian people, American Indian people. So really, really terrible time in our history. But this girl is crying, and she looks at me and she says, several of my family members were killed there. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. She was like, and she stops and she says, thank you so much. And I'm like, okay. And I didn't say anything because I'm like, I don't really know what to say in this moment. But she says, a lot of people just want to forget that this ever happened, and nobody ever talks about it anymore. And she said, what you're doing is preserving that history, and people can see it here. And she was like, I'm so grateful to you that you haven't forgotten. And like, it was so touching to me. And I'm like, that's why I do this. It's not about promoting anything or doing anything crazy. It really is preserving that history and letting people know that there are dark places around us, that things have happened, and we should not forget about that stuff. We should have an understanding of it. It shouldn't get swept under the carpet, because knowledge is always power. So, it was a crazy moment, but yeah, I certainly understand.
I'm gonna have to probably jump off here in a minute. I think my phone's
Yeah.
about ready to die.
Oh no, you're good, man. We've been on here for some time. You got anything else you want to let everybody know about?
Uh, like I said, if you guys want to find me, like I said, I'm on Killer Crawlspace. That's my podcast. Just check me out on there. I'm in a good headspace. So I've been like trying to record more and trying to get things out there. I take time off from time to time, but like I said, I just stay busy. So I'm a father of three. I work. I basically in management where I work. So like yeah, I work 4 days. I also work nights. So 4 days is kind of 5 days because I my day off. I get off that morning, and then I either zombie it out or sleep for like 2 hours. So yeah, Killer Crawlspace. If you just search my name, you should be able to find everything about me with my books and all that. Which trying to balance everything like it's hard to do that. We need more time in the day.
Uh,
Yeah,
uh,
thank you for
uh,
having me on there.
Absolutely, man. You got to remember too, you're apparently also a sex symbol for many men and inmates in prison right now. So you got
Yeah,
to put
that's
that on
true.
the tagline, right?
That is true. Yeah.
That's hilarious, man. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us and coming on and sharing kind of your story and the stuff that you have going on. Cool, man. Go and enjoy the rest of your day before your phone dies. I'll talk
All
to
right.
you soon, Bruce.
All right. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of True Crime, Myths, Legends, and more. Make sure that you go out and check out Killer Crawlspace. I will have a link for it below so you guys can go and check out that stuff. Bruce has also got a bunch of books out on Amazon. So make sure you check that out. I'll try to get some of the links for that and I'll put those on there. You can go pick up his stuff and check out all the things that he has out there going on. Just an incredible resource. He's helped me out with a bunch of things. When I have questions about certain cases and stuff, I usually hit up Bruce to ask him because, he's had a lot of personal connections with many of these people, talking to them and, writing back and forth and getting information. It is a unique place to be and something that has always fascinated me. And of course, we end up talking about the paranormal stuff and cryptids and everything because that's also an interest for both of us. So thank you guys. Check it out. Remember, next week we will be here for a little breakdown of this episode with Mary and Sherry. We'll be on live always at 5 p.m. unless I change it for some reason. 5 p.m. on Tuesday. We'll be on here doing that. Make sure that you tune in to that and get up on there and comment and ask questions and we'll talk about it. And maybe some of those questions are that you need to know more about some of these people that Bruce talked to. Because some of them are not names like Gacy and Bundy and Dahmer, right? So like Philip Jablonski, Dana Gray, some of these other people that are out there that have done these things that we don't hear the names of all that often. So, it's good to expand your knowledge. This is kind of like how much do you know about true crime? So, check it out. Hit me up, and I will talk to you all soon.